Yeah. Hair flip, yeah, I'm a badass bitch. I don't like it. Hair flip, yeah. Oh my god. So you guys should be happy. Oh my goodness. Hair flip. But anyways, hair flip. Hair flipping on these hoes. Hi.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to your boy Sean Davey Way. Welcome to part 2 of Sean Tober and the Dahmer series, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. We've broken a few parts down, episode 1 and 2, and we're going to jump right back into it. So we're going to finish up episode 2, jump into 3 and 4, and then we'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Thank you for your support. So without holding you any further, let's dive right into it. Parts of episode 1 and 2 that we didn't discuss was on Dahmer's father. Jeffrey Dahmer's father is very intricate in the entire series because in my eyes, he taught Jeffrey to be who he was. Now, the decisions that Jeffrey did, his impulse to want to hurt people and end lives, I don't feel that he got that from his father. I don't feel that his father taught him that. Anyone with that impulse, murderous, type of impulse, I feel that it's just something that you feel. It's just something that you have as an impulse that I don't. So sweets may be an impulse for me, but for a person like you, to where there's a switch missing to your conscience, which helps us determine good from bad or good from evil, he's missing that switch. So a person like that is easily, to me, classified as a sociopath, somebody that feels differently or doesn't feel at all, does not have a shield of morale that protects you from making evil and awful decisions. So I have that. I have morality and all of those things. But when it comes to Jeffrey, he did not. So a person like that is built to kill. Most people can't take a life because they have a conscience. Sympathy, empathy for people. It's not just taking a person's life. You don't want to see them in pain. You don't want to inflict pain. You don't want to do any of those things. Getting into a physical altercation with somebody, yeah, you want to hurt them, but you don't want to end them. When you are like Jeffrey Dahmer, you want to end them, and not because they did anything to you, more so to feed this impulse that you have to do said things. Like some people have an impulse to cheat, and you have other people that don't, have that impulse. And then you have some people that have an impulse to end lives without any reason or any feeling behind doing it. And you have people like me, and I'm sure like you, that are the complete opposite. So why Sean Davey feels that this is Jeffrey Dahmer's father's fault, not literal fault, but the design of Jeffrey came from his father. There were a lot alike. If you pay attention to the docuseries, which they were telling the truth about, Jeffrey's mother and father did not get along. Early on in the relationship, they kind of did, but as time progressed, it just got worse and worse. So Jeffrey's father was a very nice person to most people. So the people in the public looked at him as a great guy. But behind closed doors, Jeffrey got to see a different side of his father, the whole Jekyll and Hyde. So in the public, his dad's smiling, just great, awesome, innocent individual. But behind closed doors, when he gets into it with his mother, there's a different side of him that comes out, a very angry side that comes out of him. So I feel that his father, without realizing, because children are sponges, like they soak up everything that they see. We're not just taught how to walk and talk and all of those things. We're literally taught to pick a personality. So by the certain things and values that our parents instill in us affects our personality, and things that we will do and things that we won't do because of what we were allowed to do and what we weren't allowed to do. Like with some people, they may curse in front of their parents, but with people like me, we weren't allowed to curse at all. So I'm going to curse out there in the streets, but I'm not going to do it at home in front of my family. So it's the same thing with Jeffrey's dad. He wouldn't yell and say the obscenities that he would say to his wife in front of other people, but when he got home, he definitely did. Bystanders and witnesses and whatnot come forward and state that Jeffrey was the nicest guy, and then you got home, when we got to his apartment, he just turned into this whole other person. So I feel that that came from his father. His father was the same way, in the streets, nice guy, bring you back home. Once that door locks and I turn around, I'm a completely different individual. So Jeffrey definitely picked that pattern up from his father. Another pattern he picked up from his father, paying attention to the argument that Jeffrey's mother and father was having at one point. Jeffrey's dad stated that the only thing that would fix her, that would fix Jeffrey's mother, was to get a lobotomy. And if you know what a lobotomy is, that definitely states that she needs to be controlled. She needs to have minimal use of her brain because she already makes really bad decisions. So him stating that was an insult. But when Jeffrey overheard that conversation, I feel like it gave him an idea, because he tried to make his victims zombie-like by drilling holes in skulls and pouring acid, inside of the skull. Basically, a lobotomy, if you will, is what Jeffrey would try to do to his victim. So I feel like he got that from his father. He got that idea from an argument that his mother and father was having. Another thing Jeffrey's dad taught him. Jeffrey's father also had a conversation with him in the garage when they were bonding over dissecting roadkill and other things. When they were bonding over the conversation, Jeffrey's father told him about a situation that happened with scientists and them removing the brain of a frog, I believe it was, and with the brain stem still being in place, that they would use certain different theories and solutions to make the frog still move, although the frog was unalive. I believe that gave Jeffrey an idea as well. I think that helped him with the thought process of doing that to a real human. Because to me, Jeffrey's urges started as a child. Like, he's always had the urge to do certain things, but as a child, you only know certain information. So as you grow, you get to learn more. So the more he got to learn was the more he wanted to do it to an actual human. Jeffrey Dahmer always stated that he's always been that way. He doesn't feel that anything truly affected him to make him want to do the things that he did. And I believe him. I believe that people that have the urge to end lives, I think it's just something that happens. I think you're like not born that way, but you're born with those type of thoughts. Not like as an infant, or anything like that. No, but as you grow, it's no different than like sexuality and, anything else. You start to realize it early on. So I think Jeffrey, especially moving on to animals that were alive, because that's another thing the docuseries leaves out, is that Jeffrey didn't just bring roadkill home. Him and his dad would do roadkill dissections together. So like his dad would find the roadkill, but Jeffrey moved on to real animals. So there was plenty of times, I'm sure, that him and his dad sat there dissecting something, and his father probably thought that it's a animal that Jeffrey found on the side of the road. And it's like, no, he literally took the life of it. Dogs, stray dogs and cats, or injured animals that he would find on the side of the road, he would bring them back home and finish the job. And sometimes he would even take them in the woods, because there was a dog that was nailed, a corpse of a dog that was nailed to a tree near his home. And with that being said, if the dog is nailed up there, clearly you tortured it. Like, you didn't just put it up there after it was gone. No, you put it up there while the dog was still alive and well, and then you did what you did to it. So he's always had the urge to do what he was doing, but his dad wasn't realizing that he was feeding Jeffrey's urge by looking at this something as a bonding experiment or a bonding moment, when it's really not. You're helping nurture these really evil fantasies that he has. In episode 3, the divorce of Dahmer's parents happened. I believe in this episode is where a lot of people start to have sympathy and empathy for Jeffrey Dahmer. They start to pity him. And don't get me wrong, in any other situation, I would be right there with you, but I can't be. And the reason I can't is because in my mindset, Jeffrey Dahmer is a sociopath. So he does not act out real emotions. He's just acting. Sociopaths do not feel, at least the way that we do. Now, when it comes to physical pain and things in that nature, yes, I feel they absolutely feel. And they are narcissists. They only care about themselves, things that affect them. Jeffrey and his mother were not close. Jeffrey was a loner. The only time he really spent with his father was when they were dissecting animals. Other than that, his father was either working or just distant or arguing with his mother. So he wasn't really close to his mom at all. And if it wasn't for the dissections, he wouldn't have been close to his father. That's why he has none of the traits that a mother gives. A mother gives nurture She loves, she cares, all of those things. Fathers do too, but a mother's love is different. So when it comes to Jeffrey being as violent as he was, I feel that if his mom was actually there for him, maybe things in the future would have been a little bit different. Because again, sociopaths, it's all acting. The emotions that they see other people convey, they mimic them. So in times to where somebody passes away and you say, I'm sorry for your loss, Jeffrey will say it just because it's a learned behavior. It's something that he's seen before. He's not actually sorry that the person passed away. Case in point, Jeffrey was so mesmerized by a young man that passed away. He didn't know him, never saw him before in his life, but he saw a photograph of him in the obituary. So Jeffrey went to this boy's funeral. They show it a little bit of it in the docuseries, but Jeffrey literally went to that person's funeral. So he could care less that this person had passed away. He's there because he's into necrophilia. So if he had the opportunity to do what he wants to do with this man's body, he absolutely would. But he knows he doesn't, so at least let me get some type of sight of a mental note, a mental photograph of this so that I can, pleasure myself to it later. So how would he have any sympathy or empathy or conscience? Well, he doesn't have any of those things. He's not capable of them. So this divorce to me truly did not affect Jeffrey. I feel that he was mimicking how normal kids, like on television shows and stuff like that, how they would react if their parents got divorced. Jeffrey didn't care. The divorce was just an excuse for Jeffrey to do evil things. When his mother in the scene in episode 3, which once again was definitely fictionalized, it's not a real conversation, but Jeffrey and his mother did have a similar conversation, and his mother was not as nearly as harsh as the movie made it seem, because it seemed pretty harsh, like, oh, I'm leaving you, oh, well, you're not going with me. It made it seem like that, and the conversation really didn't go that way, but Jeffrey was 17 years old, and Jeffrey did not have a closeness to his mother. Jeffrey's brother did. So that's why and he was still young, he's a minor, so that's why she felt the need to take him and not take Jeffrey. He's about to be 18 years old. He's been in school here. He's about to graduate. Why would I just remove him from all of that? So there was just a miscommunication. So again, he was just using that as an excuse because he could have cared less if his mom left. Like, he never loved her, so his father is as close to it. If he could love, he would have loved his dad, because he didn't love his dad either. He absolutely did not. And when it came to his mother, he didn't love her either. It was easy for her to leave his life because he never cared about her. He didn't cry when she left. He didn't try to go with her. He didn't try to follow her. He didn't call his dad and tell his dad. He didn't do any of those things. His dad didn't even know that whole time that Jeffrey's mom wasn't there. Again, miscommunication, because Jeffrey's dad thought that Jeffrey's mom was at home with the boys. That's why he went to the hotel. If you pay attention in episode 3, Jeffrey's mom tells Jeffrey when he comes home from school, when she's leaving, that his father was at a hotel with another woman. And they had just gotten divorced, so Jeffrey's dad had no idea. So she is at home packing her stuff, and he's thinking that she's just at home with the kids. No, she was leaving just like he felt like he could do. I feel like a lot of fathers leave kids' lives and it's not made of that big a deal. But a mom does it, and she's just the most horrible person ever. Although her son was 17 years old, about to be 18, graduating. Well, he's basically an adult. So it's not like a real abandonment. It's how Jeffrey was trying to push it like he was truly abandoned that day. No, you were not. You didn't care. It's a difference when you care. Because with normal people, your mother leaving you, especially if you have a good relationship with her, a loving relationship with her, that's not an easy pill to swallow. But with Jeffrey, he could have cared less. That's why he didn't tell his father, which his father was in a hotel in town. They try to make it seem like his dad just like left the state or left him there. No, he was in town in a hotel because he had just divorced his wife and she got the home. So since she had the home, why would I go there when we're not together anymore? So that's why he was in a hotel. When he found out that Jeffrey was there by himself, he went home. Jeffrey didn't tell him. Jeffrey never told his father because, again, Jeffrey could have easily just drove to the hotel. He has a car, all of that stuff, He could have easily just drove to the hotel and let his father know what was going on. But he chose not to because this gave Jeffrey the opportunity to start creating victims. He now had a place, basically a whole house, to where now I can start feeding my impulse. It was never about the divorce. It never was. Fact or fiction? In the docuseries, it states that Jeffrey hadn't seen his mom for 3 months when his father had finally showed up to the home. So that would mean that Jeffrey didn't see his father for 3 months as well. Is that fact or fiction? If you guess fiction, you are absolutely correct. Jeffrey's father was in that hotel about 3 weeks. So no, it was not 3 months since he had seen his father. They just abandoned him. He had just been there basically ending lives of people for 3 months. No, Jeffrey only had one victim while his parents were gone. So that means that they were gone for a short time. In that time, Jeffrey would have had 2 victims. Jeffrey always had this fantasy of picking up a hitchhiker and bringing that person home and having his way with them. This person was not the hitchhiker. It was a jogger that Jeffrey would see jogging on his way home from and to school. So when Jeffrey would see this person, he fantasized about doing the same thing, about bringing this person home and having his way with them. Jeffrey finally got enough energy to do it. So Jeffrey went to the same road where the jogger would normally travel. And the day that Jeffrey came to do so with a Louis Slugger bat with him, he was planning on using that bat to knock him out and bring him home. The jogger didn't go down the road that day. So that was nothing but Jesus Christ. Because if that jogger would have ran down the road that day, that would have been his first victim. The only reason he did not end that boy's life is because he did not run past that day. Jeffrey finally gets the opportunity to have a real victim. He's going to move on from animals and now go to humans. His first victim was Stephen Hill. He always had a fantasy, Jeffrey, of picking up a hitchhiker, so this was his opportunity to do so. He felt like the opportunity was transpiring. There was no one home. He had the house to himself. This is not a coincidence, as if this is like a sign from somewhere that he should do this. So he decides to do it. So he brings this boy back to his home, which was Stephen Hill. Now in the docuseries, I want to know again, fact or fiction? In the docuseries, Jeffrey tries to kiss Stephen Hill, and Stephen Hill gets upset and wants to leave after Jeffrey tries to kiss him. Is that fact or fiction? You answered fiction. Once again, you are correct. Jeffrey Dahmer and Steve had sex. So when they show in the docuseries that Stephen got upset when Jeffrey tried to kiss him, that didn't happen because they had sex. When Stephen got upset was when he was ready to go because he was hitchhiking. So he had a destination. He had a place he was trying to get to, which wasn't too far, but Jeffrey didn't want him to leave. And the main reason I feel Jeffrey didn't want him to leave is because Jeffrey had just had consensual gay sex for the first time. And I don't think he knew how to deal with it, because he was into necrophilia. He wanted his bait, to do what he said. He wanted to be completely in control. So this is the first time he's consensually doing something that he doesn't necessarily want to do. He wants to do it, just not in this way. So that's why Jeffrey ended up taking his life, I feel, because he wanted to do sexual things to him while he was passed away, necrophilia. So that's the whole reason. He wanted to be in total control. And with Stephen wanting to leave, the control factor is leaving. So in order to regain it, that's why he ended his life. He makes it seem as if he had no intention of ending Steve's life, and that is a complete lie. He had already been practicing with acids and whatnot to get rid of bones and to get the skin fully off of bones, practicing with other roadkill and animals to remove the skin from the bone and whatnot. He was already practicing. He was figuring out ways to make sure that he could get away with ridding the body afterwards, although he kept trophies. So no, he had every intention of ending Stephen's life. So for him to say it was accidental, no, it was not. It was deliberate. After Jeffrey ended Stephen's life and decided to remove and dispose of his body, He placed them inside of trash bags, and he didn't triple or double bag them like he learned later. So there was definitely going to be an odor, just not right away. So he gets pulled over, and let's go back to the divorce and how I said the divorce clearly did not matter to Jeffrey because he is a sociopath and was just picking up off of learned behavior. Way to get yourself out of certain situations due to seeing other people that are having real emotions. So he's mimicking said emotions. The cops pull him over. He's clearly intoxicated. Evident. While that is going on, anybody that has a conscience and knows good from evil is going to be extremely nervous getting pulled over with a body in the back seat of your car. Okay? You're going to be extremely nervous. Your energy is going to be off. You may tremble. You may stumble over your words. You may do all of those things. But if you don't have any feeling towards humans, especially, no morals or anything like that, you're not going to care. So you can stay as cool as a cucumber with something you don't care about. So it's easy for Jeffrey not to tremble or anything like that. Those are real human emotions. He is not capable of those things. He doesn't feel guilt, or anything like that. So when the police pull him over, again, it's easy for him to save face and not act as if there's a reason to be alarmed. So that's another reason I'm sure the police didn't check the bags and whatnot, is because he's acting fine. I mean, he's a little intoxicated, but other than that, he's not like freaking out or, his eyes are going everywhere, or he's just uncontrollable, or he's just not acting rationally. None of those things are happening. So there's no alarms being set off from them to even look in the bags, besides the fact that Jeffrey's weird. So Jeffrey had to change the energy. So Jeffrey fakes as if he's saddened by his parents recently divorcing. That makes the cop feel sympathy and empathy for Jeffrey. Instead, Jeffrey actually feeling those emotions himself. So it was a learned behavior. Again, going back to the sorry for your loss. It's just something you say when people pass away. So people are used to it. So it's their go-to. It's the same thing with Jeffrey. That was his go-to. Oh, my parents are divorcing. So this is a way to get them off of me, to excuse my behavior right now with me being drunk and intoxicated. Let me say something that they can sympathize with or relate to, so that I can distract them to get myself out of this situation using my white privilege. And that's exactly what happened. People state that Jeffrey Dahmer was brilliant. He was intelligent. He was a smart criminal. No, he was not. Besides disposing of the bodies, he was an idiot. And why I say he was an idiot, because why would you do the things that you're doing drunk and intoxicated? You're drunk, going all over the road with a body in the backseat of your car. How is this smart? The only reason he got away with it is because he has white privilege. They overlook things because he is a white man. That's the only. He literally had a body in his backseat, and they didn't even blink. They didn't even think twice to look inside of the bags because they were too busy identifying with something they could relate to. This is a young white man. Like, officer even stated it. You're only 18. I'm not going to ruin the rest of your life. Why give him a chance? Like, you're giving him one because of privilege. You're giving him a privilege right now because of what he looks like and the color of his skin, to decide that he is doing nothing wrong when you are pulling over someone that is 18 years old and intoxicated. He's not supposed to be drinking. He's also driving. This is every reason to be alarmed and check the car and all of those things, and they choose not to. So again, that's not brilliance. That is ignorance, and he is very so much an idiot. In episode 4, we learn about Splanchinophilia. The term is explained when someone finds viscera or internal organs sexually arousing. Jeffrey Dahmer said that stuck with him because it explained the reason why he found internal organs so beautiful, why he found them so arousing. It actually gave a word to it. So he didn't feel alone, as if, I'm not the only one, that is going through this, so that means that I'm normal. You're not. You're still psychotic. Why I state that is because it means at some point in time that you're going to act on said impulse. So it's no different if you're a woman that is attracted to women, but due to society or other people, family, friends, you may just date men, but you're going to have an impulse that comes over you to be with a woman, and vice versa. No different with a man. There's going to be an impulse that comes that makes you feel like you have to feed it. And it can get to the point to where sometimes you don't even care what the person looks like or anything. There's just something in you that needs to be fed. So you're going to do what you have to do to feed it. Episode 4, Jeffrey tries to have this conversation with his father. His father even asked at the table, is this sexual? When Jeffrey answered yes, that's when the conversation veered into his father telling him that, hey, we should get you in Ohio State. We should get you in college. So that's the deflection that his father, to me, has always had. His father has always been naive to a lot of signs, to a lot of things that is giving away parts of what's going on. It may not give the full story, but it's giving you enough to know what's going on. His father chose to ignore it. That was always his choice. It wasn't something that Jeffrey wasn't trying to be honest about, because Jeffrey did want to talk about it, and not in a way to where it's like a burden on him so he will feel relieved if he gets to say something to somebody. I feel it was more so of a bragging thing. Jeffrey wanted to let his dad know, like, hey, you know, everything we've been doing for years when it came to animals, I've actually evolved and done it with humans. You know, I feel like he wanted his bragging rights. He wanted somebody to know of his work. You're doing something that people normally do not get away with, and you've gotten away with this scot-free with no conscience as a sociopath who is extremely narcissistic. You're gonna want your clout. You're gonna want your flowers, if you will. And if anybody could relate to what Jeffrey was talking about, he felt like it was his father, because that's where they bonded when they did dissections. Jeffrey's done an epic dissection in his mind. It was epic. The dissection of all dissections, and I can't even tell you about it type of situation. Also learned, although doctors and Jeffrey's family and detectives and whatnot, especially back in the late 80s, early 90s, stated how intelligent Jeffrey was because of him getting away with the crimes he's gotten away with for over a decade, they tried to make it seem as if he was actually intelligent. He wasn't. He was dumb. He was a dud. He was an idiot. It is that simple. He had an extremely low GPA in high school, and it was also low in college. So it was not like he had an extremely high GPA. So it makes sense why he got away with these crimes for 10 years. He got away with those crimes for 10 years because of white privilege. Other than that, again, he was dumb. There are people that are street smart, that have a certain amount of education and background in certain things that may be lucrative or just keep a person afloat. So just because someone that like deals drugs or something like that in the streets, just because they're smart when it comes to making decisions on doing something bad, it doesn't mean when it's time to go sit down and take an SAT, or to go sit down and get into a college or take an altitude test or anything like that, that they're going to score high. So it's the same thing with Jeffrey. Just because he was flourishing in things that he took an interest in, which was like dissecting bodies and getting rid of bodies and removing the flesh from bone marrow and drying bones, just because he was smart in those ways, and it's not really being smart, it's just retaining information and the things you find interest in. Just because you're great at playing PlayStation 4, you know, or something like that, doesn't make you smart. Like, no, I guess you're smart when it comes to making decisions to this video game, but when it comes to making decisions in your actual life, you're pretty dumb. So it's the same thing with Jeffrey. Him being intelligent is not the reason he got away with these crimes for over 10 years. He got away with them due to white privilege. He got away with them due to other people's ignorance and stupidity when it came to what he looked like versus to what he could be capable of. So 3 just keeps proving how dumb Jeffrey is. So when he got kicked out of college, his father decided, once again, because he makes decisions for him, because, you know, he's a sociopath, so he doesn't really want anything out of life besides feeding his impulses. So when his father decides to place him in the army, again, you have to take tests before you go into it so they know what area to place you in. So Jeffrey tested very low on these test scores. Again, he was an idiot. When he did go, he went and decided to be a medic because it was low. It doesn't take much brain capacity to draw blood or bandage someone, you know, and whatnot. So it didn't take much. It's not like they put him as a sniper, you know, or something like that, something that takes a high level of intelligence to be able to do. They didn't place him in any role like that. They taught him the basics because he was in basic training, but everybody trains differently. So when Jeffrey was there, he was only once again taking interest and flourishing in the things that he found interesting. Again, there's many things that he could have learned while he was there, especially in self-defense and other things. But instead, he wanted to learn about feeding his impulse. So he learns about the pills, the sleeping medications that they've used to subdue people. He found interest in things like that and also used them. Again, being in the army, he could have learned so much, but it seems the only thing he learned was how to knock people out using medication. So that's when he only used and retained information. Again, not him being intelligent, him just retaining information of something that he could use to feed his impulse. So while he's in class and the army lieutenant is teaching them about these sleeping medications and whatnot, the tranquilizers, if you will, he's so dumb that he couldn't even get the dosage right. Each time he gave it to somebody else, to when he gave it to one of his victims, starting in the army, when he was giving it to them, he was giving them too much. And I believe that that's why Jeffrey got kicked out of the army, because somebody almost passed away due to him being dumb and hating math and not being good in math, to where he's giving people too much. He's not even giving them the correct dosage. That's how much of an idiot he is. But people once again are trying to say he's smart. No, he's not. They're literally giving him the calibrations of the medications, how much you should use, don't go over this amount, and he still gets the dosage wrong because he is an idiot. In episode 3, we just keep finding out again how dumb Jeffrey actually is. He's at a state fair or fair, and he decides to commit a lewd act in front of everyone, including children, teenagers, just everybody, and commits this lewd act to where he gets charged for it. He gets arrested and he gets charged basically and has to register. He's an SO pretty much at this point. Instead, he goes to court and the judge is very lenient on him. Very lenient. So the charge is very minor. So again, white privilege. Privilege is what, because this is literally in front of everybody. So if you're dumb enough to go to a fair in front of the public and commit a lewd act in the nature that he commits it, are you kidding me? It's like, what are we giving him a chance for? Lock him up and throw away the key. So remember, the media and doctors and detectives and whatnot tried to make it, even the FBI tried to make it seem as if Jeffrey was so smart. No, he was not. He was just so privileged. We also find out Jeffrey was going to bathhouses and whatnot. And what the docuseries is leaving out is that Jeffrey was having a lot of consensual sex that time with a lot of different partners. But he wasn't hurting anybody. He was literally just having consensual sex. With that being said, him traveling around to the bathhouses and the gay bars, Jeffrey got tired of, because he doesn't like having consensual sex. He wants to be in complete control. He doesn't want the person moving or anything. It's necrophilia. He basically wants to look at it as if this person is not alive, to where he is fully dominating the situation, completely selfish lover, a completely selfish lover. He doesn't want to please anyone or have them be pleased, although Jeffrey did a lot of pleasing. He just didn't want the person to be awake, alert, during it. He didn't want to see like a facial expression, or anything like that, or a moan, nothing. He was a selfish lover. At one of the bathhouses, he overdoses the patrons, the people that he takes back, the men that he's planning on having sex with. He takes them there and he gives them too much of the medication to where one almost OD'd and the second one did OD. Privilege. The owner knew exactly who was doing this to these men. He could pinpoint him by face, all of that. He never called the police. Now, I understand he wants to protect his business, but how can you protect your business if you keep letting a person in here that is doing what he's doing? Because if he's doing it inside of your establishment, he's doing it other places, even at home. So you want to get this person off the street completely, not just, I don't want him here. No, let the police know what he is doing. Jeffrey could have been stopped in his tracks, but everybody kept giving him privilege. Even the owner, the people are like, oh, well, the owner told him, the owner kicked him out and cursed him. No, the owner should have called the police. The second man almost passed away because Jeffrey was just leaving them back in those rooms. With those booths, you can be in there pretty much as long as you want to be. If you want to stay 10 hours, you can stay 10 hours, So They have no idea because you have complete privacy. There's like no cameras or, nothing like that to alert that a person has been in this room for a very long time without exiting, using the restroom, getting something to drink, nothing. They've just been in there. So they're finding these people this way instead of knowing. So again, how did the owner take care of the situation if he never involved the authorities? I know some may say, well, Sean, the authorities did get involved. No, they did not. The only reason the police did have somewhat involvement with that situation is because the paramedics have to call the police. He called 911 so that an ambulance can come and take care of this young man that was basically ODing. That's the situation. He never called the police himself because remember, when Jeffrey came back, he could have easily let Jeffrey back there and called the police and had the police come and get Jeffrey. Instead, he kicked Jeffrey out. So you are protecting him right now when you can I would have just let him in and just called the police and be like, hey, that guy's back. He's here. He did not do that. Instead, he gave him privilege. No, just don't come back. This isn't handling the situation at all. But I digress. Moving right along. And it drifts into Dahmer's second victim, which was Tomi. So Stephen was a dancer at a gay bar that Dahmer frequented, and he decided to bring him home. Now, Dahmer had gotten kicked out of the bathhouse. All of them, actually. He was put on trespass with all of them, so he couldn't take Stephen there. So Jeffrey had booked a hotel at the Ambassador prior because he knew that he was going to try to bring someone home like he normally did. He was staying with his grandmother, so that's why he used the bathhouses. That's why at the beginning, he wasn't taking anybody back to his grandmother's home because he didn't want her to know what was going on, like that he was gay. So Dahmer took Stephen back to the hotel after them hanging out and partying and drinking at the bar. They make it back. Dahmer puts a concoction, the sleeping med concoction that he always puts together that most men OD'd off of. He puts that concoction together, but he accidentally drinks it himself. So he absolutely OD'd on his own concoction. Some would call that karma. I call it stupid. Again, Jeffrey's supposed to be so smart, but the idiot drank his own concoction. He drugged himself, but he's intelligent. Jeffrey stated that he had no ill will against Stephen, that he only wanted to drink with him, give him the concoction, have him pass out, and he just wanted to cuddle with him. Jeffrey, how was that true when you went and got a hotel? You got a hotel deliberately. He could have went back to Stephen's place. He didn't want to. He had in his mind, he didn't know who he was going to get for that night. I don't feel that he had the victim chose yet. He didn't choose the victim until he got to the club to push a certain energy to see who's actually going to leave with him. So he always had it in his mind to take him to the hotel and have his way. So he makes it seem as if I was just going to cuddle with him. No, you were going to R-word him just like you did the other two men in the bathhouses that you got kicked out of. You R-worded those men inside of that bathhouse. That's why you got kicked out, because you made them OD. So it was the same thing that you were going to do with him. Now, I don't think that he had any intention at that point in time of ending Stephen's life. No, I don't think that he was going to do that. But I do think he had every intention to R-word Stephen like he was doing with his other victim. Jeffrey wakes up, and on the opposite side of the bed is Stephen, badly beaten and passed away. He makes it seem as if he had no intention. I don't know what happened. I would have never done that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you would have, because you did. When you are walking around all day hiding a side of you, hiding this evil that is inside of you, when you get intoxicated, the real you is going to show. So the person that you can suppress while you are sober, or at least alert while you are conscious of the decisions that you are making, when you are drugged and already inebriated and whatnot, that is really going to pull that veil down. So how you would normally vision things, like when Jeffrey would have these urges and impulses to do certain things to these men, with him being alert enough to suppress those things, he didn't do them. So if Jeffrey would have accidentally drugged himself at the bathhouse with one of those men, he would have ended their life. He would have done the same thing that he did to Steven because he lost control. Again, he is an idiot. Dahmer's dumb because this monster that you are hiding, you can only hide the monster while you are coherent. If you are incoherent, that monster is just going to roam free, and it doesn't matter where it is. It's no different than Jeffrey getting extremely intoxicated at that state fair and him committing a lewd act. That monster is going to be let out as soon as it gets a chance to. So what happened when he drugged himself, he let that monster out, and that monster did exactly what Jeffrey would normally suppress. So do I believe that that was an accident? Yes, that was the only accident that I feel that Jeffrey committed. Do Jeffrey remember exactly what happened? No, but he does remember flashbacks. And I think in my theory, and what happened is that Jeffrey does not like consensual sex. He doesn't like it. He likes being completely in control, completely dominant over the situation. So he doesn't like to be touched during sex, or anything like that. That's how I knew at the beginning with Tracy Edwards, when in the docu-series they had him suck on Jeffrey's finger. No, Jeffrey doesn't like that type of stuff. Jeffrey likes to be in control. He wants to do the touching. He's a giver, not a receiver. He does not want to receive anything. He only wants to give. So with that being said, I think that Tomi inside of the hotel room, I think that he tried to be sexual with Jeffrey and touch him and kiss him and do things like that. And that's not what Jeffrey wanted. And normally Jeffrey would hold that violent energy back and wait until they pass out or, something like that so that he can be in total control. But with him being drugged and Steven touching him, that demon came out. So I'm sure it started as maybe like a shove, don't touch me type of situation. Just stay away from me until you pass out, because Jeffrey was trying to stay awake. He was slapping himself and, all of that. But that drug was taking over and he was losing control by the second. And he doesn't want to lose control. He wants to stay in control. So I feel that Jeffrey was angry with himself that he was falling to sleep and, things like that. And then you have somebody touching him, irritating him as well. So I think he just beat him to death. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate your support and following the Dahmer series. We will keep this going. Part 3 will be on episode 4, 5, and 6. So thank you again for tuning in, and we will keep breaking this down to our best capabilities. Send me any information if you would like me to incorporate it, or if you feel like there's something that I don't know or something you just like to point out, feel free to send it to me, and I would love to shout you out and incorporate the information you send. If you want to send some fact or fictions and whatnot, I'd love to get those from you too. But until the next video, stay vigilant. I love you all. Bye. Flex, fresh, fresh, flex, fresh, fresh, fresh,